Good morning, students. This is Professor Amar Bakodi. Today we are going to discuss the water supply and treatment engineering subject, module 4, and in that the topic is disinfection. Methods of disinfection. So basically we have three methods of disinfection. So the first one is chlorination process, second is ozonation process, and the third one is use of UV radiation. So basically apart from these, so again we have n number of advanced ways of disinfecting the water or wastewater, but usually in India, based on the constraints what we have, so we usually go for any of these three methods. So the first one is chlorination. So this is quite abundantly used in India based on its simplicity, but it has its own limitations. Similarly, the ozonation process is much better than chlorination, but it is a bit costlier than that, and even the ozone is quite poisonous to the human beings. So again we need to take care. If we are going with the ozonation process, then the proper steps are to be taken to destroy or else to incinerate the excess ozone that is going to be present over there. And the last one is use of UV radiation. So this is one of the best methods. So here we are not going to add anything, neither we are going to subtract. So basically we are going to use UV radiation and we are going to pass it through the flowing channels of the water or wastewater to which we want to treat. And based on that particular UV radiation application, that disinfection is going to occur. Chlorination process. Chlorine is the most widely used disinfectant for water and wastewater. Principal chlorine compounds used for the chlorination are chlorine gas, sodium hypochlorite, calcium hypochlorite, and chlorine dioxide. Many of the large cities have switched from the chlorine gas to hypochlorite due to storage and handling concerns. So what here we are trying to discuss here is, first of all, your chlorine is this is most widely used, and why it is used is based on its simplicity. So it is quite effective in disinfecting the water or wastewater we have. But for this chlorine, whenever we say it, right? So this chlorine may be present in the form of gas or liquid. But whenever you add this particular chlorine in any form into water, okay, so directly this chlorine will not be disinfecting the water. In turn, once the chlorine will react with the water, few compounds are going to generate here. So those compounds are nothing but your chlorine gas, you have your sodium hypochlorite, calcium hypochlorite, along with that chlorine dioxide. So these are nothing but the compounds that are formed when your chlorine reacts with the what I can say water. So again, whenever I am saying it as chlorine, the best thing what I can say is regarding your bleaching powder. So bleaching powder is one of the common source of your chlorine. You can check it out. The next point, many of the large cities have switched from chlorine gas to hypochlorite due to storage and handling concern. So what do you mean by this? So what happens is, chlorine, as I told you, it may be in the form of liquid or it may be in the form of gas. Okay. So in both these particular forms, your chlorine gas is quite poisonous. Okay. So this liquid will turn into gas at a quite rapid phase. Okay. And whenever this happens or whenever the chlorine gas is generated, so that is quite poisonous to the living beings. So in the next slides, we are going to check out the characteristics of this chlorine and then we'll discuss further. Chlorine. Now you can see it is available in liquid or gaseous form. It is a yellowish greenish color or a greenish yellowish color gas with 2.48 times heavier than air. Chlorine liquid is amber colored and it is 1.44 times heavier than the water. Now you can check it out here. So this chlorine, as I told you, may be available in liquid or gaseous form, and in the gaseous form basically this will be greenish yellow in color, and if you consider the liquid form it will be in terms of an amber color. So amber color is nothing but what, your yellowish orange or even a reddish tinge color, combination of all these you can call it as an amber color. So this gas is actually 2.48 times heavier than air, as well as it is 1.44 times heavier than water. So you can check it out. So it is quite denser than water as per these specifications. So because of this, what happens is, as I told you, this is quite poisonous. Okay, so let us continue. The usage of chlorine gas for disinfection raises the following concerns. Okay, what are those concerns? We'll just check it out. Chlorine is a toxic substance and is transported through rail, roadways, which are prone to accidents. Okay, it poses health risk to the treatment plant workers and public. Second one. Third one is, it reacts with organic matter to produce odor, and which may generate end products which are carcinogenic. So carcinogenic in the sense, these are cancer causing reagents which are going to be formed. Now residual chlorine in water and wastewater is toxic to aquatic life. Okay, let us discuss these concerns one by one. Now the first one is regarding, you can check it out, chlorine is toxic substance and is transported through rail, roadways which are prone to accident. So you might have seen in most of the transporting vehicles, okay, so where those tankers usually take these toxic gases, for example this chlorine. So along with that they will be writing on the backside or else on the side of those tankers, usually they will be having few labels. So these labels indicate what? These labels actually indicate what are the characteristics of these components, what they are transporting. Along with that, there will be few safety instructions. So in case of any leakage of these particular what I can say components into the atmosphere due to an accident or something, so what all steps needs to be taken over there. But unfortunately, even with all these precautions, if this accident or this particular hazard, if it happens at any remote place, so at that point of time again to have all these safety precautions will become quite difficult. Second thing is, as we have seen, it is 2.48 times heavier than air as well as 1.44 times heavier than water. So whether these components, whether it mixes in air or water, so it is going to stay at the lower level only. Okay, so because of which what will happen, imagine this, let us say this is a road. Okay, so this is your vehicle, imagine this has been damaged and the chlorine gas is being emitted over here, and here let us say there are few people. Okay, what actually happens, ideally speaking, what actually should happen is, since it is gas, it should rise up. Okay, so it should mix with the atmosphere, which if this is happening there would have been not much of a problem. But since this chlorine gas is much heavier than the surrounding air, so that's why it will remain at the ground level only, and as and when the wind moves, so even this is going to move, and because of this heaviness, all the human beings who are living here, so automatically these or else your chlorine gas will be in the breathing range of these people. Secondly, it poses health risk. It poses health risk for the treatment plant workers and public. So what do you mean by this is, you have, imagine, let us say this is a city. In the outskirts of the city, let us say we have water treatment plant. So at this point of time, as I told you, because of the cheap nature and its efficiency, most of the Indian treatment plants, they tend to use chlorination. So this chlorine will be stored in terms of liquid or a gas, and both of these forms are quite poisonous, because again liquid, under pressure it will be in liquid. Okay, so as soon as the pressure is reduced, so it will convert into gas, and based on that what will happen, if there is a leakage of these gas over here, automatically the surrounding area is going to get affected. So because of this, again you are putting the risk of or else you are putting the people who are staying nearby this, as well as the people who are working in this plant in a health hazard if such case of any leakages occurs. Now the third one is it reacts with organic matter to produce odor. That is, if any of the, let us say, if the water contains any of the organic waste, so then your chlorine will react with that, and in turn it produces odor. Okay, foul odor will be produced, and these or else the end products of these, that is, few of the reagents or gases that are going to generate with the interaction of chlorine gas with the organic matter, that are going to be carcinogenic. So carcinogenic are nothing but these are the compounds which can cause cancer to the living beings in a long exposure time. And lastly, the residual chlorine in water and wastewater is toxic to aquatic life. So what do you mean by this is, what we usually do is, imagine this is your treatment plant, okay, and let us say this is the city to which you want to supply the water. Now let us say this as treatment unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is your raw water which is there, and this is nothing but treated water. So you have used n number of treatment units over here with the different techniques to treat this raw water. So now whenever this water is coming out of this treatment plant, you are going to call this as treated water. But we need to make sure that this water which is being treated over here will remain, or else will keep its own characteristics till it reaches all the houses inside this city. So that is the distribution system which are going to be there, or else the pipeline system what we are going to have for the distribution of water in any of the city or town or village. Then even through that distribution, the same characteristics of water needs to be there. But unfortunately, due to any of the leakages or theft, or because of any other what I can say poor quality construction or something of that sort, there might be leakages, or there might be addition of some of the external contaminants into these pipelines. Okay, so again we cannot supply the same contaminated water to the public, even though we have treated this at this particular point. But here the water may not be pure because of the leakage or any other reason, there might be some addition of pollutants. So because of this, what will happen, we need to make sure that even if such cases of addition of few of these contaminants is occurring, we need to make sure even that can be taken care. So how we are going to do that? That is with the help of, usually the last unit for the treatment will be this disinfection. So at that disinfection, what we do is we usually keep some residual chlorine in water. Okay, so why do we keep that residual chlorine in water is, in case if such things are happening, that is such leakages or entry of contaminants are happening, so this residual chlorine actually takes care of the contaminants or pollutants which are being entered. So this will disinfect that water, and in turn whenever the house gets the water, so obviously even though there is a leakage or contaminants addition after the treatment, so this residual chlorine can disinfect that, and ultimately the pure water is supplied to the public or any of the houses. Sodium hypochlorite. It is available in the form of liquid, and it contains around 12.5 to 17% of chlorine. It can be purchased in bulk with 12 to 15% of chlorine, and it gets degraded in liquid form if exposed to the sunlight. And the purchase price of this is 2 times more than that of the chlorine. So here this sodium hypochlorite is another form of chlorine that can be added, or else another form that can be used in the chlorination process, and usually it is available only in the liquid form, and it contains around 12.5 to 17% of chlorine. But the same thing if you are purchasing it in bulk, so obviously the purity will be a bit less with 12 to 15% of chlorine gas, and if it exposed to the sunlight, actually this particular percentage of chlorine will get reduced, and the purchase price of this is obviously 2 times more than the chlorine gas what we usually take. Because of this itself, you can check it out, chlorination. So we use chlorine in its pure form for whether it is in the gas form or liquid form to use it in your treatment of water. Now the next one is calcium hypochlorite. So it is available in dry or wet form, that is powder or liquid form. It contains around 70% of chlorine, and it is difficult to handle and it tends to get crystallized. That is, if it gets exposed to the atmosphere, so the formation of crystals are going to take place. So it is not a powder. So basically once it reacts with the moisture or air in the atmosphere, so it is going to get crystallized. So once it is crystallized, automatically this percentage of chlorine will get reduced. Now if we just check it out over here, so whether we use sodium hypochlorite or calcium hypochlorite, so based on its form or else the amount of chlorine gas which is present, so you can check it out. In sodium hypochlorite we have only 12 to 17% of chlorine, so obviously the effectiveness of this will be a bit less. And similarly calcium hypochlorite, it contains 70% of chlorine. So with this I can say the effectiveness or else the dosage that is required will be very less for calcium hypochlorite. So as and when the percentage of chlorine is more, the reagents or else the free radicals what we call it, or else the oxidizing agents what we call it, will be generating at a faster rate. In turn the disinfection is going to take place. Now, if I compare it with the previous slide, that is your chlorination, you can check it out, the cost is more. And even for calcium hypochlorite, it gets crystallized. So, in all the forms of chlorination, in one or the other way, so they have few of the limitations. Okay, that's why we have two more methods of disinfection that we are going to study further. But basically, to tell you here, all these are quite effective but have few of the limitations. Okay, so now you can check it out, the reactions that occur in this chlorination process. So everyone concentrate here. So chlorine reaction with water. Now chlorine gas, when you add it to water, so it is going to form this hypochlorous acid, that is HOCl. Along with that, it is going to generate this hydrogen ion and a chlorine ion. Okay, so then this particular hypochlorous acid is coming here. So if that again will dissociate into hydrogen ion and hypochlorate ion. So hypochlorate ion is nothing but OCl minus. Okay, I'll repeat once again. Chlorine will react with water to form hypochlorous acid plus hydrogen ion and chlorine ion. Now similarly, this hypochlorous acid will again automatically dissociate into hydrogen ion and hypochlorate ion. Okay, now check it out. So this hypochlorite ion may react with the calcium or sodium which is present in water to form calcium hypochlorate. You can check it out here. So if this OCl, that is hypochlorite ion, reacts with the calcium over here, we are going to get this calcium hypochlorate. So again, then when this calcium hypochlorate reacts with water, it is again going to give us the hypochlorous acid and calcium hydroxide. Now similarly, if this OCl ion or hypochlorite ion reacts with sodium, I am going to get sodium hypochlorate. When it reacts with water, again I am going to get it what? Your hypochlorous acid plus sodium hydroxide. So here you can check it out. So this particular HOCl, you can check it out. So this HOCl or hypochlorous acid, what we are calling, this is nothing but a component that actually provides the disinfection process. Okay, so you can check it out. Even this hypochlorite ion, even this is an oxidizing agent. Okay, whereas even this is an oxidizing agent. But this hypochlorous acid is actually 40 to 80 times more powerful than the hypochlorite ions. So hypochlorite ions are nothing but what? These. Okay, so basically directly when you add chlorine into the water, so automatically the chlorine will not actually have the disinfection effect, but once it reacts with water, so there will be n number of reagents or reactants that are going to be formed. So based on those reactants or the acids or ions or radicals, what we call it, so based on that your disinfection is going to occur. So these are the reactions that you need to remember whenever you are explaining the chlorination process. Now the second one is ozonation. So ozone was first used as a disinfectant in early 1900 in France. Okay, it can remove color, odor and taste. Hence, it has a high potential as a disinfectant and also is used in advanced treatment of wastewater. Ozone is unstable gas which dissociates into oxygen and atomic oxygen, or else what we call it as nascent oxygen. It is produced by electrolysis process or photochemical reaction or radiochemical reactions by electrical discharge. Ozone is a blue gas and it is detectable at a concentration of 0.01 to 0.05 ppm, and the concentration more than 240 ppm causes danger of explosion. Now let us discuss this. So as it is indicated here, so in the early 1900s, so in France, this ozonation process was added or else identified. Now you can check it out. Since this ozonation process, when I compare it with the previous chlorination, whenever it is chlorination, you can check it out, there will be some smell related to that particular what I can say chlorination. If chlorine is more, the best example what I can give you is your municipal supply. You can check it out during the initial rainy seasons when the turbid water will be more, they add more amount of chlorine. Again, why they add that chlorine, what is the significance of residual chlorine, we have already discussed in the previous slides. But you can check it out, as and when the chlorine is more, there will be a smell, and if you try to taste it, automatically there will be a bitter taste to that. Okay, so that is one of the what I can say characteristics of chlorination. But whenever it comes to the ozonation process, we are not going to face any of such kind of problem. Okay, so because here we are trying to add ozone or else oxygen into the water, so that is actually quite good for us. So that's why it can remove color, odor can be removed, and in turn taste can also be removed. Because of these three characteristics, it has a high potential as a disinfectant. Okay, also it is used in advanced treatment of wastewater, because again this right now what we are discussing is purely on the water treatment front, but even this ozonation process can be used for wastewater treatment also. Now again, even this ozone has few concerns. That is, ozone is actually very unstable gas which actually dissociates into oxygen and atomic oxygen. So that is what actually happens is your O3 will dissociate, it is a reversible reaction, into oxygen, that is atmospheric oxygen, plus your atomic oxygen or else nascent oxygen, what we call it. So this nascent oxygen is actually quite oxidizing. So this is quite what I can say, it is having a bleaching characteristics. So if it touches your skin or if you come in contact with this nascent oxygen, automatically your particular skin or anything or any what I can say, it basically has that oxidizing agent, it burns the things. Okay, so ozone is actually a blue gas, blue in color, and it is detectable at this very low concentration 0.01 to 0.05 ppm, and if the concentration is more than 240 ppm, there is a chance of explosion. But unfortunately, even I'll tell you, because of this reversible reaction what ozone has, okay, because of this your ozone becomes very poisonous or toxic to the living beings also. So the same thing I have told it even in case of chlorination, but here also ozonation, ozone gas is quite dangerous to human beings. The reason for being this ozone as dangerous is because of this nascent oxygen. So don't be under the impression you are inhaling oxygen, so even ozone is not harmful for us. No, ozone will actually dissociate into oxygen and nascent oxygen. This oxygen will not harm us, but this nascent oxygen is going to be very toxic to us. Now, the reactions of ozonation with water. So, I just request you to concentrate here because the terms are a bit confusing here. Now, check it out. This ozone, okay, will react with water, that is H2O, to form HO3. It is an intermediate product, plus an hydroxyl ion, that is OH minus. Okay, please check it out. So, O3 will react with, so this O3 will react with water to form HO3 plus ion. It is an intermediate product, plus hydroxyl ion. Okay, that is OH minus. Now, in turn, these two will react and combine to form 2HO2. Okay, please concentrate here. It is 2HO2. It is not H2O. This is not a water molecule. Check out this formula. It is 2HO2. Okay, this is again an free radical of oxygen, what we can call it. Okay, now similarly, this ozone will again react with the HO2 that is being produced over here in water. Okay, so this HO2 will be reacting to form HO, that is an intermediate product again, and 2O2, that is oxygen is released. Okay, please check it out. Once again I'll repeat, this ozone once again will react with the formation of this free radical HO2 in water, which is over here. So these will react to form what? HO plus 2O2. This is nothing but the oxygen gas, and this is again one more free radical what we have. Now, these two free radicals, that is HO2 plus HO, you can check it out, HO plus HO2 will react to form again H2O and O2. It will again form water and oxygen gas. So here with this reaction, what I want to tell you here is, this is a continuous process. So ozone will first react with water to form some intermediate products, and based on this intermediate product, whenever they interact, they are going to form one free radical. So again, this free radical is going to react with the ozone. Okay, so HO2 which is present over here, the same thing is come over here. So again, this will react with the O3, okay, and it forms one more free radical, that is HO, and oxygen is released. Now, these two free radicals, that is HO2 and HO, these will again react with each other to form water molecule and oxygen. I hope it is clear for you. If not, please rewind the video and check it out, because here we are getting two free radicals. So these are one HO and one more is HO2. Okay. So basically again, once water is formed and oxygen is formed, right? So again this water can be again reacted with ozone, and the same procedure will continue. Okay, so that is why I said, as and when you are adding this ozone into the water, it will become a continuous reaction. As and when it is a continuous reaction, you are going to get this HO and HO2. These are the two free radicals. Okay, so these free radicals which are formed have a high oxidizing power. That is, as I told you, whenever right now O3, what you put it over here into the water, directly this O3 will not react. Even I told you, your nascent oxygen which is there, which is having a quite a strong oxidizing agent, it burns, right? So even purely this nascent oxygen will not react, or else will not form the oxidizing characteristics. It usually is what? HO free radical and HO2. These two free radicals cause the disinfection of water whenever ozone is added to the water. So these are two important components in ozonation process, and this is what you need to explain as the chemical reaction for ozonation process. Now, ozonation disinfection system contains these 5 different components. Okay, first one is power supply, second one is preparation of feed gas, third one is ozone generator, fourth one is ozone contact reactors, and the fifth one is destruction of excess ozone gas. Let us see regarding this figure. So this is indicating, yeah, typical flow diagram for the application of ozone for disinfection. So let us first understand this figure. So what are the different components that we have? So the first one we have is liquid oxygen storage tank. Okay. Then we have a vaporization unit. Then we have ozone generators, and then we have liquid to be treated, that is the inflow. This is a closed container. So this is ozone contact reactor, what this closed container is. This is the treated effluent, and ultimately we have the off gas, that is excess ozone for the thermal destruction unit. Let us check it out here. Yeah. So usually what will happen is, to generate this ozone, okay, we use liquid oxygen as its source, okay, and we have this liquid oxygen storage tank, and from this liquid oxygen is actually taken to the vaporization unit. So in this vaporization, this liquid is going to convert that into what? Your gas. Now based on this, you have your oxygen gas as an output from this vaporization unit. Now this oxygen is fed into these particular ozone generators. Okay, so what these ozone generators will do is, as we have previously discussed, based on the various chemical reactions or electrical charges what we are going to provide inside these chambers, so the oxygen will convert into what? Ozone. Okay, based on the three process what we have discussed earlier, we are going to check out into ozone. So the output of this is going to be what? Your O3, and this ozone in terms of your diffused system will be given into the water. Now here one care should be taken. So whatever this zone is there, or else whatever the unit where you are going to make the contact of ozone with the water, okay, with the water, you need to make sure that it is completely airtight. That is, there should not be any of the ozone gas that should actually escape through this particular chamber. So based on this, what will happen? We have some inlet and outlet arrangements for the water. So the water will come in. So because of these baffles, what you are seeing over here, the water will move up and down. Okay, and then it is going to pass it to the effluent. Okay, due to this passage, or else during this passage, your ozone will be interacting with all that water. Okay, in turn, the disinfection process will be taking place. Now obviously whenever you are discharging any gas over here, the entire gas, ozone gas, will not be absorbed by the water. There will be obviously excess gas that is going to remain. So that excess gas can be taken out through an outlet in a controlled manner, and usually that will be taken up to the destruction unit. So this thermal destruction is nothing but incineration process. So incineration is nothing but what? It is burning. So they are going to take this ozone, okay, into an incinerator. So incinerator is again a treatment where you burn the things in a controlled manner. So that ozone will be used, and entire ozone will be burnt off, or else it will be converted into non-harmful compounds, and then it is going to be discharged in the atmosphere. So with this process, even the surrounding people who are working in this treatment plant as well as the public will not get affected by the ozone gas. Okay, so this is how your ozone disinfection works. Ozone actually destructs the cell wall of the microorganisms and in turn causes disinfection. It is more effective than the chlorine, and it doesn't add any dissolved solvents. That is, if you check out, so how this disinfection actually occurs. So initially what we have seen regarding those two free radicals, so those two free radicals will react with, imagine this as your microorganisms which are there, they actually act on the cell wall of these microbes, and in turn they destroy this cell wall. So once this cell wall is destroyed, so its protoplasm as well as its entire living will be disturbed, and in turn they are going to get degraded, or else they are going to get oxidized. So this is how the ozonation process actually works, or else how the disinfection occurs from this ozonation process. Actually the cell wall will be ruptured because of the oxidizing nature of the free radicals that are being formed during the reaction of ozone with water, and because of that your disinfection is taking place. Now this is more effective than chlorine, and it does not add any dissolved solids. That is, here we are not adding any additional chemicals or reagents or anything. Even the formation of any of the what I can say reagents or hydroxides are not seen over here, whereas these hydroxides are formed in the chlorination process, what we have seen in the earlier chemical reactions. But in ozonation process we are not forming any of the hydroxides or hydroxyls, or any of the dissolved solids are not being added up. So whatever the raw water is there, to that we are just passing this ozone, so it will react, it will form some free radicals. So those free radicals will destroy the cell wall of the microorganisms. In turn this water is disinfected. So we are not adding, or we are not generating, or we are not precipitating any of the additional hydroxide or any other components in this process.